The first time my phone buzzed at 2:17 a.m., I rolled over and ignored it. Probably a spam call. Maybe a drunk text from someone I hadn't talked to since college. But when it buzzed again and again, I knew it was her. "Hey, I'm outside." I didn't know where else to go. I sat up straight. My heart wasn't racing, it was pounding, like it knew this wasn't just another night. It had been 7 months since I last heard from my sister. 7 months of silence, of wondering whether she was even alive. 7 months since she'd vanished, again, after promising she was clean this time. We grew up in the same house, shared a bedroom for years, whispered our dreams under blankets lit by flashlights. She wanted to be a tattoo artist. I wanted to be a mom. We used to laugh at how different we were. But somewhere along the way, our path, they say addiction doesn't knock. It crashes in. But that's not how it happened with Carly. It started slow, so slow you could convince yourself it was nothing. I remember the first time I noticed something was off. Carly had come over to my apartment to help with the kids. She was always good with them, silly, creative, patient in a way I wasn't. But that day, she kept zoning out. She said her allergies were acting up. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She laughed it off. I laughed with her. We watched Finding Nemo on the couch and ordered pizza. The worst part isn't the silence. It's the half silence. The occasional ding of a 2 a.m. text that reads, "Hey, you up?" Or, "I need 50 just till Friday." It's her voice when she does call. Fast, scattered, paranoid. Like she's racing a clock only she can hear. The spiral wasn't a single moment. It was a series of small ones. The time she pawned Mom's necklace. The time I caught her nodding off in the bathroom at my son's 3rd birthday party. The time she showed up looking so thin, so sunken. I barely recognized her under the hoodie and excuses. She always had a story. It had been 3 months of silence, no middle-of-the-night pings, no blocked number voicemails, no rumors from someone who saw her outside the Circle K, nothing. I had trained myself not to flinch when my phone lit up. I stopped checking every unknown number. I focused on my boys, my job, my sleep, what little of it I could get. But there was this dull ache, like a quiet hum under my ribs. I tried to tell myself the silence was good. Maybe she was in rehab. Maybe she finally went to live with Aunt Kay in Michigan like she threatened to once. Maybe she was clean and starting over. Maybe she was dead. And then, one night, just after midnight, my phone buzzed. I was half asleep, curled on the couch, a rerun playing low in the background. I almost didn't look, but I did. The drive was quiet. Carly stared out the window, hands clenched tightly in her lap. I didn't push. I knew better by now. When she was ready, she'd talk. We pulled into my driveway just after 1 a.m. The porch light flickered overhead, another thing I hadn't had time or money to fix. My boys were asleep upstairs. The living room smelled faintly of microwaved pizza and lavender spray. It wasn't much, but it was home. She walked in slowly, eyes scanning everything like she was trying to memorize it. I handed her 3 weeks into Carly's stay. I drove her to her first Narcotics Anonymous meeting. It was in the basement of a church that smelled like burnt coffee and pine sol. A circle of old folding chairs, a dented metal pot of stale decaf, and a handful of people who looked like they'd seen the bottom and clawed their way back. Carly gripped the arm of my hoodie as we walked in. "What if I can't do this?" she whispered. "Then we come back tomorrow, 3 months clean." That's when Carly said she was ready to try working again. It wasn't some grand full-time position, just a cashier job at a thrift store across town. Minimum wage, part-time, but to Carly it felt like Everest. The night before her first shift, she was pacing the living room, biting her nails down to the skin. "What if I mess up? What if someone from my past walks in?" "Then you stand a little taller," I said, "because you're not that person anymore." She wore the same black jeans she'd had since high school and a faded blue blouse she found in the back of her closet. She looked good, nervous but grounded. "I feel like I'm pretending to be someone I'm not," she whispered at the door. "No," I said, holding her gaze. Carly hadn't said Mom's name in years. Not since the funeral. She didn't go. said she couldn't, said if she stepped foot into that church, the weight of her guilt would crush her. I didn't push her. I was too numb myself back then, too busy making arrangements, picking out flowers she'd never get to see, explaining death to my kids in ways that didn't destroy their childhood. But now, 7 months sober and finally standing a little taller, Carly brought it up herself. I need to go to the grave. I need to say something to her. She didn't ask me to come, but I went anyway. It was a chilly Sunday afternoon, the kind where the wind doesn't howl. It just hums in your ears like a memory trying to get your attention. We stood there in silence for a while. The headstone was simple. Margaret Elaine Thomas, beloved mother, 1959 to 2019. Carly's hands were shaking, but she didn't cry right away. She just stood, arms crossed, eyes locked on the cold stone. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." It was so soft I almost missed it. But then the flood came. She dropped to her knees, pressing her palm to the earth. Recovery isn't a straight line. I'd learned that the hard way. And just when I started thinking maybe Carly was in the clear, 7 months sober, new job at a florist shop, even starting to laugh again, he showed up. Zane. The same boyfriend she used to disappear with. The one who got her hooked on pills in the first place. The one who left her in a motel bathroom overdosing while he ran off with her phone and her last $50. I came home from picking up groceries and there he was, sitting on my front porch, and Carly sitting next to him. My heart sank. Her shoulders were tense, arms crossed tightly, but she wasn't getting up either. "Hey, I just came to talk," he said, like we were old friends. I didn't speak. I just looked at Carly. "He found me at work," she muttered. "Said he's clean now. Said he's sorry." I stayed calm on the outside, but inside I was screaming. "Do you believe him?" I asked. She hesitated. That tiny flicker of conflict in her eyes told me everything I needed to know. "I don't know," she whispered. "Part of me wants to." I looked at her hard. "You don't owe him your healing, Carly. You don't owe him a damn thing." She nodded slowly, but I could see it, the war inside her. The addiction doesn't just live in pills or powders. It lives in people, in memories, in the promises of old love and fake redemption. That night, I barely slept. I watched her door like a hawk, afraid she'd sneak out. She didn't. But the next day, her manager called me. Carly hadn't shown up for work. My stomach dropped. I called her cell. No answer. I checked her room. Empty. Her backpack was gone. No, not again. I raced to all the places I remembered. The gas station near 7th. The diner she used to love. That one liquor store where Zane once dragged her out by the arm. Carly got a sponsor the following week. Her name was Maria, early 50s, tough as nails, but with the kindest eyes I'd ever seen. She didn't sugarcoat anything. The first time Carly came home from a meeting, she rolled her eyes and said, "Maria told me to stop blaming the world and start owning my steps." Then she hugged me like I was her own kid. For once, Carly wasn't running from hard truths. She was sitting in rooms filled with folding chairs and burned-out coffee pots and saying the words she used to choke on. "Hi, I'm Carly, and I'm an addict." She started writing again, too, pages and pages in a battered leather journal. Some days she let me read them. One page said, "I used to think drugs gave me freedom, but they only chained me to people who never loved me, places that broke me, and a version of myself I didn't recognize. Now I'm learning how to live unnumbed, even if it hurts." I cried when I read that. Not because it was sad, but because it sounded like the Carly I hadn't heard in years, and she was slowly rebuilding trust, not just with me, but with herself. We celebrated her 1-year sobriety birthday with homemade lasagna, store-bought cake, and Carly had been clean for over 2 years when she came home one evening with a look I hadn't seen in a long time. Nervous, but also determined. "There's a girl in my group," she said, taking off her coat slowly. 18, just started using, still lying to herself the way I used to. I want to sponsor her. I blinked, not out of doubt, but pride. "You think you're ready?" I asked gently. She nodded. "I'm never going to be perfect, but I've walked the fire. I know what it looks like when the world feels like it's closing in. I know how it feels to send that first desperate text and wonder if anyone's still on the other side. I didn't need to ask what text she was talking about. She stayed up late writing her story again. This time, not in a journal, but as a letter to the girl. She didn't glamorize it. She didn't dramatize it either. She just wrote the truth. I've stolen, lied, slept in strangers' cars, ghosted my own sister more times than I can count. But I clawed my way back, and I want you to know you can too. The next week, she started meeting with the girl. Coffee shops, walks in the park, late night phone calls. I'd hear her pacing the back. I used to think closure came like a clean break, a sudden end to the pain, a perfect chapter closing. But with Carly, closure wasn't a door shutting. It was a slow, steady light turning on, moment by moment, day by day. There were still hard days. Addiction doesn't erase its scars just because someone gets clean. There were birthdays where she stayed quiet, days when she looked tired and heavy, and I knew she was remembering everything she'd lost. But she always came home, and that, for me, was everything. One night, we were sitting on the porch, just the two of us. The kids were asleep, the wind was soft, and Carly was sipping tea instead of vodka. "You know," she said, watching the stars, "I still have the phone, the one I used to text you from, the one I pawned 3 times and always managed to get back." I laughed. "That old thing? Why keep it?" She looked at me and smiled, not the guilty, haunted smile from years ago, but a soft, real one. "Because that night, the night I texted, 'I'm ready. Are you still there?' I thought I'd hit send into a void, but you answered, and it saved me." I looked at her, this woman who had once been a ghost